Today's class will be capturing and preserving memories with your phone. Our presenter is Michelle Karren, who has an extensive background in this area and has taught many classes in the area of attaching memories as part of the record of our ancestors. We appreciate her willingness to share her knowledge and methods with us. I'll turn the time over to Sister Karren.
Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. I'm so happy to have you here in this class today. And capturing memories is something that I feel very strongly about and just really think it makes a world of difference in our own lives and in the lives of our ancestors. So I'm just going to share with you some of my ideas, tips, and tricks of how to best utilize your phone to attach these memories to your ancestors and to really make them come alive. And so I use an iPhone, the latest iPhone, and I always like to say, this is your best excuse to get a new phone, to have the latest and greatest, because I found that each upgrade, the camera is so excellent, especially for family history. It's really useful. If you have an Android, very similar. There may be a few differences, but it's a very similar system. So onward and upward, we are going to talk about picture this. And I put this picture right here on the front page because this is a picture of a great aunt of mine. And it just showed up one day. One of my relatives on the family tree in Family Search put this and attached it to this relative. And as I opened up my Family Search one day, lo and behold, there it was. And I just love it. First of all, I love that my aunt is there on a horse. I love like the guy next to her with his 10-gallon hat. And I really would love to know the story behind this. And in fact, I think I need to reach out to the person who posted it and ask them, where did you get this picture and what is going on? Because I really want to know the story, but it makes her, to me, seem so much more alive and to seem like, wow, that is an interesting person. I want to know that story. So this is what we are doing with memories. And we're going to talk about what memories are. We're going to talk about what is a memory and what it can do for our family members, for our ancestors. So I have long thought about this. How is a person remembered after they're gone? As I consider this, right now I am thinking just the last 2 years, I've had two of my grandparents pass away. My grandmother was 98. My grandfather was 99. My grandfather died in an accident, by the way, so who knows how much longer he would have lived. But it really came to light to me that is really up to me to save and preserve what I know, what I have that is attached to them that will help them to become an interesting person that everybody wants to know, that my posterity, they want to know. So we have pictures. As long as they're preserved and accessible. And what are the pictures of? Is it just pictures of a person's face or a picture's family, a picture's home? No, it can be pictures of people, places, things, pictures of what those people used in their lifetime. What did they use in their profession? What were the hobbies that they engaged in? What did they do to enjoy life on a typical summer's day? How did they celebrate the holidays? So when we're thinking about pictures, we want to think in a more broad aspect. It's not just here's a portrait, one and done, but we want to make a person really come to life. What are the elements in their life that we can add to round out this person and show who they really were in life? The second is stories. Again, as long as they're written down and somebody has access to them. I'm realizing that my grandparents have told me stories maybe a few that they've told no one else. And unless I record it and make it accessible to my posterity, to their family members, then those stories are gone. So we want to be sure that we incorporate stories into remembering a person, attaching any kind of stories we have. And then we have journals. So I have got a little day planner that my grandfather, who recently passed away, I found it in his stuff. And it was in 1940, and he was 18 years old. And so he had graduated from high school. This was kind of his last hurrah. He was going off to war. In fact, I am pretty sure that was the reason that his diary, it just kind of quit really abruptly. But he mentions some interesting things in there. He mentions my grandmother. He drew a few doodles in this journal, a few pictures. And not only that, he drew pictures with his words. So those journals are very, very valuable. And then we have personal histories, as long as they are written and published. So today we're going to focus on pictures, but a lot of times pictures also apply to these other things. For instance, since I have that journal from my grandfather, I took pictures of all of it and I attached it on Family Search to my grandpa, at least several pages, so that there's his handwriting, there are his doodles, there is a part of my grandfather. So not only did I transcribe it and make it available as a journal, as stories, but I took pictures of it because that's also part of it. It's more interesting to me to actually look at that journal and see his handwriting and see the physical artifact that he held. It makes something, it gives me a link to him. This is something that my grandpa held. Okay, so again, all of the pictures, the stories, the journals, the comments, anything that we have that is either physical, that our ancestors or family members have given us or told us, are only as good as we make them. So if I have all of the stories, if I have all of the pictures, if I have all of my things, physical things, as well as maybe stories, memories, but I don't do anything about making them available for posterity or for those who might be interested, then eventually those are lost. In fact, as I was thinking about this class today, I realized many of the things that I have, unless I were to label each one and say what it is, my daughters would have no idea. They might say, oh, I think this was grandma's quilt that she made, or I think this was your mom's first sewing basket, or this is, it only goes as far as we allow it to go. So I am dedicating myself, and I encourage you all, if you have artifacts, if you have memorabilia, if you have pictures, make sure there's something written on them. Make sure it's detailed enough that the next generation, if they are to pick it up, that they can say who it belongs to and what it is and what meaning it has. So this picture I have right here, it is so sad to me, and it's bigger, the pile is actually bigger than this, but these are pictures that I have inherited from my grandparents who've passed away. And I sat down with my aunts and my parents and to try to figure out who these people are. Nobody knows. There's nothing written on the back of the pictures. There's no indication, really. I mean, you can tell, okay, well, that's wintertime and there's a car, but who is that person? They're lost to me. And I can't bear to throw them away because these are people, maybe, as things become more advanced, I can do a Google image search to maybe figure out who some of these people are, but likely not. These are mostly poor people who lived in the woods in Upper Michigan and probably were not really out there a lot. So how sad this makes me. So this right here is what I want you to think about committing yourself. And I want you to remember this. If there is no one to remember or no evidence of a life accessible in this earthly world, a person ceases to exist for those who come after. And I'm not saying that person didn't live a wonderful life, maybe a life full of purpose, but their posterity, those who come after them, don't know anything about them. So right now, whether you have a little bit of information or a lot, it is up to us to make sure that that isn't lost with us. So we have to add everything we can to our ancestors' profiles. And when I say add this, I'm mainly thinking of if you use Family Search, if you use Ancestry, honestly, whether you use a paper folder, we want to make sure that everything that belongs to a person is attached to them so it's available after we are gone. A few summers back, when we had our lovely COVID vacation, as I like to call it, my daughter and I decided to get ourselves organized. We were really encouraged to gather our family pictures specifically and to get them attached to our family members. So I will share with you some of the things that I did. It's a big project, and I know a lot of you probably have boxes of family memorabilia sitting around, and I know it can be overwhelming. So I'm going to give you some hints, things that we used to get started. And as you know, it's never finished. Today, it's even a little more tricky. I just discovered last week, I went down into my basement and found several file boxes full of emails that I had written back and forth to family when my children were little, describing their development and their antics, you know, telling their grandparents how they were growing and funny things that they did. And I just looked at that and realized if that, you know, stays sitting in that box, that's no good to anyone. So somehow I have to take that information and attach it. So don't get overwhelmed. I'll give you some ideas of how you can start and how you can take little bits at a time. You all know the analogy of eating an elephant. You do it a little bit at a time. And so we're going to think about that when we think of our family memories. So here are our steps. We're going to gather our supplies for our project, find a home for our project. So important. Gather our memories, sort our memories, label the memories. We're going to decide where we want to store things digitally and physically. We're going to take pictures, edit pictures, and then we're going to publish on the Memories app. Now, next week, I am going to focus exclusively on how to use the Memories app. Once we have all those pictures and once we have all of that great stuff we want to add to our person, then we're going to talk about a really easy way to do it with our phone and with the Memories app. Okay, just to let you know, these are things, examples of things that I have used. You can get any of this stuff on Amazon.com, or actually, I know that the Container Store has a lot of great things, archival quality things that your photos will stay safe and your papers will stay safe. But I got everything on Amazon.com. But here is what I suggest having: a sturdy table and chair. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. This is just how we did it. Clean hands or gloves. Of course, whenever you deal with pictures, especially old pictures, we want to make sure that they're protected from the oils and acids on our hands. A light box, a matte sheet protector, books or boxes, we may need to level them, and numbered photos, and I'll talk about that, and paper with the photo ID. So if you look right over here on these pictures that we have, I showed you a picture of the matte page protectors. There are other materials you can get as well. just anything that is matte. Sometimes I've found that it really cuts out on glare. Another thing I have found, especially if you have a really good phone, like the latest and greatest iPhone, I can almost take a picture almost in the dark. And because of the settings on my phone and how I can edit a picture, it'll turn out better, much better than if I were to take a picture with full light on it. So that is the big thing that I have found, is just light is actually not really your friend when you are trying to take pictures, because it presents a lot of glare. Okay, this is the most important step. If I can just help you all to feel this and to be okay with it, it is to set up a place for your project, a place that is easy to get to, good lightings, a place that you're going to use. For instance, I know myself. I know I can set up a completely beautiful space in the basement, and I'm not going to go down and use it. But if I set it up right in front of my TV, you bet I'm going to be using that. So think about really where you are going to do this project. So I set this up just kind of right off of my TV room, my daughter and I. And as you can see, this is just a table that we got from Costco. It is the little wooden folding table and their little wooden chair. You could use anything that you have, but I just knew this is easy to set up. If I ever really have to take it down for a little while, I can. But I urge you to have it out there so that you will do it. So that if you say, oh, I've got 5 minutes, you can work on it for 5 minutes. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and get everything back out and do it. So here you have your area. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is gather your memories. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this because this is what I really think is the most important part. Again, when we think of memories, we want to think of what really shows us the measure of a person, who a person was. Okay, and so we've got pictures, which are wonderful, right? But as you can see, I have a few other things here. I have a newspaper article about my grandpa. I have a military medal that he was given. And we're going to talk about some other things that maybe you might not have thought of. Maybe you have. I love to collect old things. So recently, when my grandpa passed away, I was so surprised as I was in his home, the things that my aunts and cousins were not interested in keeping. And I was just, dying for those things. And so anyways, I got a lot of stuff, and I'm going to show you just a few examples of what I consider memories for these people. So I want you to think about this. What types of physical artifacts serve as memories? What makes you think of a person? What would help you to see who they are and what they like to do? Maybe they're a little of their personality, what interested them. So I'm going to show you just a few of those things. So again, these are things that I found within the last couple of years, again, that no one in my family was really interested in. And it just killed me that no one was interested in. So here I am with all the stuff, and I'm going to make sure that it's attached to my people. But my grandmother really loved to quilt. She got on a kick where she started making these little bears, little quilt bears. And she sent me one as a kid. And actually, I think I threw it away or gave it away years ago. Now, the more enlightened adult me, as I went to my grandpa's house after he passed away and saw these little bears, I remembered, oh, the bears. I remember grandma made a bunch of those bears. My aunt was able to tell me that these bears were made from my grandmother's and my great grandmother's dress fabrics. So if you'll look at the little bear on the right, the one with the lighter colors, those are made from my great grandmother's dress fabrics. I just think it's so amazing. And you can really see, look at the vintage 20s and 30s era fabric. I mean, it's just beautiful. not only that my grandmother made that, but this is actually a link to my great grandmother. And so that is something that is a keepsake. Now, eventually, and especially the older one with the older fabric, it really is starting to disintegrate a bit because the fabric is so old. So this is where I need to come in and make a picture of it, say what it is, why it's important, why it's significant, and make sure that it's integrated into the family history. So here is just another thing. These are, again, our little things that I was able to rescue as the rest of my family is looking at me thinking, oh, good, she's taking care of all the junk. I am just so thrilled. But right on the top here, you can see there's some little kitty cat fabric. This was an apron that my grandmother made for my mother to wear when she was a little girl, and she taught her how to cook. So there's a little apron there. This is just an old quilt that someone in my family made. Again, I don't know who, because that information was lost. This is a crazy quilt that was made by a great grandmother of mine. Here on the bottom is a baby blanket that was made for me by my great great aunt. And so that was a part of when I grew up. Here's my daughter's first sewing box that was given to her by my grandma, actually, her great grandma. So these are things, again, that I consider memories. And I'm going to take a little picture of each of them, describe what it is. Look how colorful and interesting they are. And just the intrigue and the information it will add to a person. Okay, so again, it's just something else, just giving you some ideas. This little plate here in the back, that was mine as a child, as a baby. The car and the top and the little man driving a tractor, those were toys that my 99-year-old grandpa played with as a kid. And he had very few toys. I mean, he pretty much kept about all the toys he ever had. But look at how amazing those are. You know, they were very special to him, and they sat on the mantle in his home. And it was really funny because as my grandmother passed away, we started to see more of Grandpa's toys appear up on the mantle. And in fact, the two little toys in the front, he was a machinist in the Army, and he used that skill. He was always making things. And so he made these little toys. And I was always fascinated by that as a little kid. And the bell in the back, when I became a teacher, the first year that I was a teacher, my grandmother gave this bell to me for a Christmas present and just said, every teacher needs a bell. And so all of these little things have stories. They have texture and they have interest. So here are some more things. Here's something that maybe you haven't thought of, but as I was going through some old things with my mom recently, I realized how interesting these are. So right here, we have a family tree. My mom started it right when she got married. And it's interesting, I had to fill in. My dad didn't know who his great grandparents were. And so I had to fill those in. But also look at the wedding guest list. I love that. And in fact, you can see about the first 15 lines or so, they've started to fade away. So I'm having to go through those with my mom, make sure I get that information. But isn't that interesting? Wouldn't it be interesting to make just some kind of a chart with pictures to show all the people that were at that wedding? I love that. Okay, so here's something else that we can add, memories that we can add to people with our phones. Again, I took pictures of all of this stuff. So this is my dad's right here. He says officer's pay, allowance, and mileage voucher. This is in 1945. He was actually over in Japan at this time. And you can see he was paid $333. It looks like he was in the foreign service. So just a lot of information, but look at, I can find out where he was, what he was doing, the date, what he was paid. There's so much information that I can find out from this little pay stub. And again, it's an actual piece, a piece of him. And so down here, this is something that he was in Tokyo during the Reconstruction. There was a general conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this is a little invitation that they passed out to all of the members of the church and anyone that might want to join so that they could listen in through radio to the conference. And so I found that in his military items and I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? And it's beautiful. Some of these things are just so beautifully made and just lovely to hold. Okay, this is something that I just found. This is my mom's, one of her first piano books as a kid. And she is a fabulous pianist and organist. And I remember taking it out and I knew every song in there. And so I thought, oh, well, wouldn't it be interesting to just get a picture of that and write up a little story? This is one of my mom's first music books. This is the era that it was. Here are things that she learned from. And then over on the right, you'll see, I've got them right here. These are some of my mom's first glasses. And I'm going to show you how funny this is. So she had them when she was a kid and I can stick them right on me and they fit me. And actually I can see really well with these glasses. So we thought that that was pretty funny. We thought it was pretty funny that I could put her glasses on from when she was a little kid and that they would work for me now. So anything that classifies as a hobby, a possession, a talent, anything. But right now, look what you learned from my mom. Well, we know she wore glasses. We know that she played the piano. We can see the era that she was learning to play the piano here just by looking at those pictures. This is one of my most favorite things. Family recipes. So again, mom had a big stack of grandma. She had grandma's. We inherited my grandmother's recipe box and they're all written here. But look at this. Look at this top one. This is Mom Freeman's recipe. Okay, that is my great grandmother. That is my grandfather's grandmother or grandfather's mother. And these are the Christmas cookies that she made every year. And then on the back, there's a recipe for pudding. And then on the bottom, here is Vera. This is my grandmother. And this is her breaded bacon recipe. And I remember learning about that, learning about breaded bacon. Why would you want that? And I learned that during the Depression, this is one thing that they did to make their bacon last longer, to make more of a hearty meal out of a little piece of meat, is that they would bread bacon. And my grandmother also told me stories about her grandmother, and I do have this recipe, who would make molasses cookies and sell them to a local grocery truck, and he would take them around and sell them to the local stores. And not only that, but she said that every Wednesday they knew they could go home and they could get all of the imperfect cookies. Her grandmother saved them for them so they could have cookies. These are pictures of things that really evoke memories of warmth, of family. And so this information needs to be written down for this. Okay, so I know a lot of you may send out yearly Christmas cards. Here are two of my family Christmas cards that we've sent out in the last 15 years. I love looking at that stack of Christmas cards, and I was thinking how interesting it would be to make sure that I can take a picture of these and have them up on my family search, my ancestry, so that a person can see our family through the years and how we have evolved. Family artwork. This is a picture that my daughter Abigail has painted, and I just love it. I have it up here in my office. And so I realized, wow, this is so pretty, but I want to attach this to her. Now we know by looking at this that she's got some talent. She likes color and interest. I just love it. Again, and I said that when my grandfather, when I have his little journal, he had little doodles on there, little pictures, things that he did. And so those are little things that we can do to round out a person. So as you can tell, that is my favorite part of the class, the things that we can amass, things that we can use as artifacts for a person's life. So now I'm going to tell you what I would do. So let's say we have all those things. We have pictures that we took of them. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can really take a good pictures of things. But let's say you have stacks of pictures and you want to know what to do with it. I have got, boxes and boxes of pictures. What do I do? Well, here's what we did. We took our pictures and we organized them by categories. I did them by family names and individual names. For instance, you can see that we have the Davis family here and the Way family here. So all of the Davis family I would put together, and then I broke it apart within for the person. But you can organize it by places, by people, by events. So if somebody's birthday parties through the years, just like we did Christmases, maybe Christmas cards through the years. So you have to determine for you what works best of how to sort your memories. I find it easiest to be by person and by family, the people that might be involved. So here is one thing that we did that was really helpful, and I encourage you all to do this. Some people have a real problem with writing anything on the back of a picture. I have researched it and found that if you can use a soft lead pencil and just very lightly, you can write on these. They also make photo safe pens, which you can use to write on the back. As you can see, a lot of these pictures are damaged on the back. Now, I actually took these and peeled them out of an old photo album, the kind that used to have the sticky thing, the clear sticky front. You open it up. These were literally melting onto the photo album, the sticky stuff. So that's why it's really important that we get these pictures off. Now, if you can't get them off, if you go to get a picture off and it's just going to completely ruin it, then just leave it there and take a picture of it where it is so that you don't further destroy the picture. As you can see, we've got this one down here that looks like, wow, that is in pretty bad shape. I could have ruined that if I would have gotten any more vigorous with that. One thing we decided is to number each picture in a certain pile or in a certain category. I made a really easy chart. You can make this up yourself just by putting in a table in Microsoft Word. I gave each number a picture in the stack. So here we have 10 pictures. And as you can see, I did the name of the person in the picture, the date. As far as I knew, a lot of these had it written on the back. If it wasn't written on the back, I talked to my mom about it, who knew most of the dates of what was written on the back. Also, what I just love about old pictures, a lot of them had the date actually printed on them, which is just the best thing. Anyways, and then the details. Now, this is where we're going to make a picture become a story, become something very interesting. For instance, the number one picture, it is a picture of me as a baby, Michelle Davis as a baby. But here I have 2 days old with Mother Janet Freeman in a hospital in Würzburg, Germany. And there's more of the story that I could tell, but that makes the picture more interesting. So as much detail as we can add to the picture is going to make it better. And then I recommend, once these pictures are divided and ready, to store them in a safe place. So a photo box or an envelope that is made specifically for that, which is acid-free, which will keep the pictures for years to come. Okay, so we're talking about that physical and digital storage. So here are some examples. Again, everything is from Amazon.com. I have also found the Container Store has a lot of these things. They do a really good job if you want to go and look. But you can see there are just a lot of options. So just look for acid-free archival boxes and papers and albums. They even have albums now that are safe. So just make sure that they're acid-free and safe. And that's how you can store your physical items. Okay, and now for digital storage. With our iPhone, you can create albums from your camera roll and just store it in iPhoto, which I love doing. I think that's the easiest way for me to do it, but we can also use Google Photos and create albums from our camera. And then, like I said, next week, we're going to talk about how to take all of these pictures, all of these interesting tidbits about a person and attach them to that person on the Memories app, on Family Search through the Memories app. Okay, so once we have our piles laid out, we've got our little paper inventory here, so we know what the pictures are, we know the interesting things. You can see this is a picture of us doing this real time. Here is my basket of photos that I have yet to separate and I have yet to categorize and number and put on my inventory sheet. But here's a little box called a scanner bin. Now, I've seen it advertised as just a photo box. Basically, what it allows you to do is you can see my iPhone is just sitting on the box so that all we have to do is just push a button. So all we're doing is just, you don't even have to point, you're just shooting. So that allows us to make sure that we're getting a really good picture. So once you're at this point and you can kind of adjust the lighting, again, with the phone, you can make sure that you can edit it to be a picture that you're really happy with. So once you take your picture, we just take a little check mark on the back of it and mark it on our inventory sheet. And I'm going to be honest here, we really did. I think we kind of gave up on the inventory sheet like after we had done a few hundred pictures, but we did not give up on the X on the back of the picture so that we know that we did it. So, just saying. Again, I had said, if needed, you can use a matte sheet protector to cut the shine on your photo. But I suggest just trying less light. Honestly, I have found the evening is the best time to take pictures. The phone usually picks it up, and without a flash or anything, you can get a really great picture without any light glare on the picture. So you have to kind of play around with it. And you might think about that when you pick a place to lay your project out. Make sure that it has good light, but not too much light. Okay, so a lot of you may know about this, but some of you may not. This is why I love my phone to take pictures. So as you can see on this first picture here, I just took the picture. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit edit up on the top right. I just clicked edit. And then the first thing I always do with my iPhone, and I'm sure that the Android has something like this, but the little magic wand, if you just push that, then that just kind of lightens up your picture and makes it a better, more clear picture. This, I think, is the best thing that you can do to make your pictures really good. And if you just get them on there and you don't have them edited, that's great. Somebody techie can come along afterwards and edit them for you. So I do the wand. You can play around with filters. You can play around with lighting. But I think, to me, the most important thing is the magic wand and to crop the picture. So if you look at this first picture, here I have my friend Whitney standing there, and it's a cute picture. But if you look at the picture afterwards, you can see we have cropped out some of the noise. We've got the lights up above that we really didn't need to see. I would rather see Whitney's face than all of those lights. So I brought her in and I cropped it down. So a lot of the pictures, especially old pictures, you will notice that it will be a teeny tiny person or maybe two in this huge picture of nothing. And so I have found that by playing around with this, by editing and cropping those pictures, you can get a way better picture by pulling up that face, by cropping it in and making it so that you can actually see who it is. So that's just really, really important. Easy to do. Just remember the wand. And if you don't know how to do this, then Google, how do I edit a picture on my phone? Whatever phone you have. I mean, we don't even have to have any questions of how to do something. That is what I have so far. Next week, we're going to talk about how to use the Memories app to add all of this to a person's profile. And I'm just going to look and see if there are any questions.
One question was, would your slides be available? And the answer is yes. You'll send them to us and we'll post it with the recording.
Okay, everybody, I just want to let you all know and to encourage you to start a little journey with yourself, gather what you have, make sure that everything is labeled, things that you have, make sure that those who come after you will be able to pick these things up and carry on. And I promise that as you do that, you will have wonderful experiences. I have felt so close to my beloved grandparents as I hold the things that they held and the work that they did and see their handicraft, see everything that they have done. And so I encourage you all to do that and to have a good time. I promise it will enrich your life. And thank you all for joining, and we will see you next week.